career has. Oh, no! Battles deep into the night has left the stadium entirely.
You're listening to the Bombastic Podcast with Andrew Ellis on Inside Arkansas.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Bombastic Podcast presented by Inside Arkansas and hosted by Andrew Ellis. I'm joined here by Curtis Wilkerson and Cameron Green on the final Bombastic postgame of the year, recapping Arkansas's 13-10 loss against Kansas. I guess we can talk about the 10-9 win over Northeastern if you guys really want to, but this is a season-ending edition as Arkansas's time in the Lawrence Regional came to an end. They did not even force a Game 7 finale on Monday. That would have been winner take all. They go down 0-2 against Kansas in the Lawrence Regional. So congratulations to the Jayhawks, who will advance to the Super Regional. They're going to wait and see who they get out of Georgia Tech or Oklahoma. And seriously, congrats to Kansas. But guys, how are we feeling after a wild game that started well and then ended and turned around really quickly on the Razorbacks? How do we feel as the season has come to an end now?
Not great. I mean, how could you feel good after something like that? These are the streams that are not a whole lot of fun. We have a lot of fun when we do some of these post games where we're celebrating huge Razorback wins in the postseason or great moments or whatever. But unless you win the whole thing, it always comes to this conclusion. And we never look forward to these kind of streams. But yeah, you know, man, like Arkansas, they were in control until they weren't. You mentioned it. We were having a lot of fun out there in the backyard for a minute. And then it was like you had one leak that became a snowball, that became an avalanche. And you can't give up 11 unanswered runs and expect to win many baseball games. So, you know, they continue to battle, but too many missed opportunities, too many mistakes. And, it's a team that had its share of deficiencies, I guess, all season, and they had pretty much all of them show up at different points throughout this baseball game, and they're headed home from a regional for, what is it, the third time in 4 years now.
Yeah, it's just disappointing. You come in and you go, hey, we got to start 2-0. That's the key to winning the regional, and as soon as you didn't, you said, this is the battle you've got to fight, and it's a hard, the way the regional format is, you cannot suffer that Game 2 loss, and it was always going to be difficult to come back from. And clearly they weren't able to. And really, it wasn't much the offense's fault today. They ended up scoring 10 runs against this Kansas pitching staff. You just couldn't hold them down enough. And ironically enough, the freshman that you threw out there pitched the best of any of the pitchers all day for the most part, other than Ethan McElvain for about the first 3 innings. But, yeah, it's hard not to feel a little bit down. And now we just got to get ready for the offseason.
Yeah, I think Game 2, was kind of a little bit of a microcosm of the entire season, not necessarily the whole big picture of it, but when you have one of your top arms on the mound, which Arkansas did to have Ethan McElvain start this game, and it started very well. He's dancing around trouble, pitching himself into and out of jams. He had thrown 3 scoreless, was at about 49 pitches. You knew it wasn't going to be a long start with him having already thrown Friday and it being his first start of the season. But in those first 3 innings, you kind of see, man, when Arkansas has one of their top guys on the mound and the bats are swinging it well, it's 5-0, felt like they were kind of rolling. You're like, man, this team can really be dangerous. But then once you have to start going to guys you don't want to have to go to, which Arkansas did in this game, but also having to go to Cole Gibbler way earlier than you wanted to. I mean, that was kind of the key going into Game 2 today. After the chaos of Game 1 where you had to use some arms, you really didn't want to have to go to Gibbler. And, Gackle wound up obviously not throwing in this game, but you wanted to piece together these games as much as you could. And really in the Northeastern game and the Kansas game tonight, Arkansas's pitching plan just completely went awry, and you can't afford to be off schedule. And so in a weird way, it kind of makes this loss not easier to take, but there's no like decision-making to really nitpick here. It's just Arkansas did not have the arms necessary, which we knew coming in. But man, it's just kind of a tough pill to swallow to see the arms blow up the way they did. And it kind of just, big picture, it kind of makes everyone's concerns feel pretty valid.
Yeah, oh, no, 100%, man. I agree with you. It was going to take a very specific set of circumstances on the pitching front for Arkansas to get through 3 games here like they needed to. And, yeah, it didn't work out that way. The Northeastern game got way, way, way too close for comfort there down the end. You feel like they had a number of times they could have really put those guys away, maybe extended somebody, maybe used some arms that they hadn't planned on using to get through. And, yeah, I would have loved it if McElvain could have stayed out there and thrown 6 innings or something this game, but Buddy, when he hits a wall, he kind of hits a wall. At least that's what it looked like in this one tonight. And, it's one of those things. I'm with you. It would have been maybe better for content, I guess, if we could have sat here and said, why did he go to this guy at this point? Or why did he take him out here? But you're right, man. It's just kind of one of those things. And, they didn't have enough pitching. nobody really does once you get to this point. But man, when you get down and get in that losers bracket, it's hard to come out from unless things go your way.
Yeah, and that first game, the storyline really coming out of it was, did they exhaust themselves too much dealing with Northeastern at this point? You only had so many arms that you had to use. And ultimately, I don't know if you necessarily did with the way the offense and for the most of the lineup performed, but the pitching staff, and you knew this was going to be the case, you ended up having to use a few more arms that you needed, and that ended up biting you a little bit. So it's just so frustrating to see it go the way it did, but it's kind of just the way the regionals typically go if you do fall to that losers bracket.
Those arms didn't necessarily get any help in the field either.
That is also true.
Costly plays
throughout the entire weekend, really.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me to my next point, which I was going to say is that, this team, I feel like that's been the story all season is, they have games where you look at it and you're like, man, they can swing it with the best of them. Like they can clearly, today they scored, 20 runs today in the 2 games. Like clearly the offense wasn't the issue here today, but the offense was the issue yesterday. And those times where you get in, that's what baseball is all about. You have a situation where maybe you have a couple runners on, you need a pitcher to come in and get those guys out. Or you have a situation where a guy doesn't get the job done at the plate. You need someone else to come in there, and you kind of have to pick yourself up along the way, and your pitching, your fielding, and your hitting kind of all have to go together. And for Arkansas, there's been times this year where they look good in the field. There's been times this year where they look good on the mound. There's been times this year where they look good at the plate. They did all 3 of those things at different points this weekend, but they were also completely unacceptably horrible in those areas at different stretches of this game. And I feel like this weekend, if you just look over at Kansas, like Kansas is not a more talented team than Arkansas at all, but they kind of were getting that complimentary baseball. And by the way, they were scratching the bottom of the barrel with their pitching staff a little bit, but you just kind of piece together, you have enough, your offense puts you in a good situation, and they never were out of a game. I want to ask you guys, because our big fear coming into this was, would this team fight? Would they just kind of roll over and quit? Would they just show up against Northeastern, like they did against SEMO a couple years ago? And they didn't do that. Now, they nearly blew the game. They didn't do that. Did you feel like Arkansas in today's games, were they competitive? Did they go down swinging? Like how would you assess it from that standpoint?
Yeah, I thought so. It was kind of interesting. You mentioned this, Andrew, so I don't want to steal your thunder here, but
please do.
Before the Northeastern game, we were watching them, and they were, in their huddle. They were fired up. They were doing chants. They were doing dances. They seemed to be really, really jacked up for that game. Arkansas, on the other hand, were just kind of chilling, calm, cool, and collected. And so we were kind of going through the thought process of, are these guys ready to play? Are they just going through the motions? Is one game going to beat them twice, or are they trying to conserve some of that energy because they know it's going to be a long day at the yard? And maybe that game got a little bit too close for comfort there against Northeastern, but I was really impressed with the way that they came back out and started that game against Kansas, man, because that's tough. I was worn out. I guess it's hot out there, man. That was an emotional game too, that you have to kind of turn that page real quick and hit the reset button, because now you have another elimination game that you're going into, a team that you just played 24 hours ago that you lost a tough one to. So for them to come out and do what they did to get a 5-0 lead and everything, I was like, man, they're showing a lot of resiliency here. They're showing a lot of mental toughness here and fortitude here. But at the end of the day, when you're an inconsistent baseball team in a variety of different ways, that's ultimately going to catch up with you. And I felt like that's what happened there. I don't think it was a lack of fight or a lack of want to. It was a lack of execution, a lack of taking advantage of opportunities that got them in the end.
Yeah, and it's not like the Georgia game last week in the SEC championship where you really felt like they kind of just laid down and died. Like, hey, we got this regional locked up. We're going to be hosting next week. And then it kind of just didn't happen. They got really complacent and they said, you know what? We're tired. We're tired of being here. Let's just get to the regional. This game isn't all that important anyways. And honestly, for the first 5 innings, you're feeling good about it. And then when they have that big inning, I remember looking at Curtis and we were sitting there and it was kind of like, this is where the wheels fall off. And we kind of expected them to kind of lay down and die a little bit. And they really didn't. The offense kept fighting, even through all the mistakes and the errors. Like, they kept swinging the bat. You had the few 2-run homers late to cut the lead and give yourself at least a chance down the stretch. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough for them, but they did go down swinging for the most part.
Yeah, folks, we're going to continue to break this thing down. We're going to get into your chats. I'm sure you guys are going to have plenty of questions about stupid decisions Dave made today, or, the off season. Are we going to suck again next year? Are we hitting the portal hard? Are we retaining this guy? I'm sure we're going to have time for all of those discussions. Hopefully we'll have some videos as well from John at some point during this stream. But do want to remind you guys that today's post-game show, Bombastic, through the entirety of the postseason, which ends right now, is brought to you by OZK Insurance. And one thing that really sets OZK Insurance apart is they're an independent insurance agency. They're not just tied to one company. They shop a multitude of A-rated carriers to find the best coverage and price for you. And now they pair with something you don't usually see from an independent agency, a full-service mobile app. And with this app, you can see all your policies under one roof. You can pay your bills, request roadside assistance, file claims, request policy changes, or even get new quotes all from your phone, so you get the best part of that independent agency with the convenience of modern technology. If you're tired of being stuck with one carrier or chasing down paperwork, go to ozkinsurance.com or search OZK Insurance in the App Store or Google Play. Local agency, national level options, one powerful app. That's OZK Insurance. So I know we kind of said that this season ultimately was not determined by pitching decisions made by Dave Van Horn, but I do want to kind of play hindsight coach here a little bit, because you knew you had 27 innings was what you were hoping to have. You ended up only playing 18 innings today, but you knew you were going to have to piece together 27 innings. I want to take us back to the early portion of today where you're playing Northeastern, and it's a 4-1 game, 4 innings into the game. Tate McGuire gave Arkansas a good start, got Arkansas started, gives them a lead, was filling up the strike zone, was at right around 60 pitches. They take him out and go Parker Coyle, which I think all of us were a little bit surprised by. Not necessarily, 4-1 game, having Parker Coyle in there makes sense, and he wound up actually not working out, and they ended up having to go to Steel Eaves. I was just surprised that they pulled Tate as early as they did for like the 5th time this season. And then you end up having to go to Steel Eaves, who I feel bad because the final line looked as bad as it did, but I thought Steel Eaves gave Arkansas everything he possibly could have. You end up having Cooper Dossett come in and get his first save of the season. In the Northeastern game particularly, what was kind of going through y'all's mind in terms of the pitching plan and how this is going to pan out? Because we were all kind of sitting there thinking about game 2 as well, and that was before we knew Ethan McElvain was going to start.
Yeah, I the way I see it in game 1, if you've got somebody who's not just getting shelled, you got to stretch them out as long as you possibly can there. And I know that's not something that they've typically done with Tate, but I don't know, man. Like, I thought he was pitching pretty well. You had a 3-run lead. I was really, really surprised he didn't come out there for that next inning. At least give him an opportunity to get himself into some trouble. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but maybe he goes out there and throws a scoreless frame also. But without him running into a little bit of trouble, showing signs of fatigue, I don't know that I necessarily saw that. They got a way more keen eye than I do to it. But I just wonder what he could have given you there. Could you have extended him? Somebody said in the chat yesterday in the postgame show, does Tate McGuire have 6 innings in him? He might have. He might have. For all
genuinely might have.
I was really surprised that he didn't come out there for another inning, and who knows how it would have gone. We might have been having a different hindsight type of discussion from there. But when that's the first piece of the puzzle, the first domino that has to fall to get you through what you were hoping would be 3 games there, and you got a 4-1 lead, and the guy's made it through 4, and he's looking pretty sharp. His pitch count's not up too much. I kind of thought that they would continue to roll with him, but obviously they did.
Yeah, I think whenever you're in the losers bracket and the regional format, that you don't really have too much option to choose. Hey, we want to just select our guys the way we want to do it. If this guy's pitching well, this is whenever he starts struggling a bit. I think you kind of just got to stretch him out. If he starts to struggle, then pull him. I do think they pulled him a little too early, and that's been kind of a theme this year. I'm sure there's some sort of data that they have that says, hey, once he gets to this point, he really doesn't pitch as well. They have that with Parker Coyle. They say, Davis said multiple times, it's like that 40 pitch mark. Once he gets there, it doesn't go as well after that. I'm sure there's something like that Dave is looking at, or the staff, and saying, hey, we need to pull him after this certain point. I just really think that in this situation, you really need to see if you can stretch him out, and maybe he just pushes it and you can get 5 or 6 innings and just save some arms, anything. And you just don't have the option in this situation to choose how many pitches. That if you can get as much as you can out of somebody, you got to take advantage of it in the losers bracket.
Ultimately, it was probably going to catch up to them at some point. Like, what happened in game 2 probably was going to happen in game 3 at some point. I do think there is something to it. Again, we mentioned Gibbler, because I feel like, and by the way, Gibbler, let me pull up his final line real quick, because I can't imagine that it was very good. He ends up going an inning. He gets 3 outs, 3 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned runs. Of course, I guess was that the TJ Pompey error that cost him a little bit.
Yep.
Did have 2 strikeouts. Threw him through 26 pitches. I feel like if you were able to not use Gibbler today, you could have had him available in, maybe a Gackle Gibbler day tomorrow. Obviously, they didn't get to it, but I go back to game 1 where you don't ride Tate as long as you can. So you end up using Coyle, who we kind of scheduled out was like him and Eves. You'd really like to have those guys for game 2. You end up having to use game 2 your guys that you wanted to have, and so you end up starting McIlvain, having to go to Gibbler, and Gibbler not being able to really give Arkansas much. And I don't really blame Cole Gibbler for that. He did throw last night. I would have liked to get him that day of rest or just try and piece things together, but ultimately Colin Fisher didn't work out for him. Whatever. We'll just have to kind of play that what-if game forever. I do want to change course here real quick, though, and talk about some of these guys that we watched play their final game as a Razorback today. And I want to start by giving Ryder Helfrich a shout-out. Obviously, he was getting drugged through the mud yesterday because he struck out in the 8th inning and, left some ducks on the pond. And so now we think he's overrated and he sucks. And we watched him play his last game as a Razorback today, did have 2 home runs in this game, caught 18 innings out there in the sun. And it did not look fun. We were out there. We were just standing out there, and it looked miserable. But I think about him. I think about Camden Kogel, McIlvain, Dietz, obviously, yesterday, Gackle. You can go on down the line. There's a lot of guys that are now going to leave this program, and I think there's a big picture conversation we can have about their 3 years and kind of how that went out. But of these guys that played their last game as a Razorback today, just what do you make of this group and kind of this era that they've had here at Arkansas these last few years?
It's been a really fun group to watch. I hate that they don't have more to show for it. I mean, obviously, a near miss last year with everything that happened down there in Omaha. We all hope that this wish that this season would have ended better than it did. But yeah, it's interesting for me as primarily the basketball guy. And one thing that I don't like about some of the way that the game has changed is that I like having talented players, but like the one and done thing, you don't get as connected to some of these guys as you do in a sport like baseball, where you can have them around for multiple years in the program. You become familiar with them. It almost feels like they're part of your extended family. That's kind of how I feel about a lot of these guys that we're just talking about there. And it hasn't sunk into me just yet that it's like, okay, wow. You guys were talking about it while we were watching some of the last at bats of the game. It's like, man, it's going to be Ryder's last at bat. That's crazy. Oh, Cam Kogel. It's the last time we're going to see him up there at the plate. That's crazy. I don't know how to feel about that just yet, because it's such a level of newness right there. What I will say is I appreciate those guys for being Razorbacks, appreciate the grind that they went through, the great moments that we've had. I really do wish that this group in particular had a little bit more to show for it. I wish they could have been the group that got it over the hump. Maybe we'll say the same thing about the next group that comes through, or maybe they get it done.
Yeah, no, this is a very good group that over the past few years, it was that #1 recruiting class for the most part. I mean, Camden Kogel came over from Vanderbilt, but he was part of that class in his own right there coming over. And you had guys like, and I expect some of these guys to return, possibly. We'll see. But Ryder Helfrich, maybe the best catcher in school history at this point, would you say?
I think you can make a very easy argument for Ryder Helfrich. Yeah.
Camden Kogel may be one of the greatest hitting Razorbacks ever. I mean, he was a pretty good second baseman. He had to shift over at shortstop. I mean, and that's not to throw any shade at the guy, but he's a fan favorite. I mean, you go to Baum and you see everybody. You got so many people holding ducks and armadillos and stuff, and Dave loves him to death. He does. And those are just like guys that you're going to look in a few years, then you're going to look back and say, man, I loved having those guys. I mean, it's the way in a few years you'll look at those guys the way you look at guys like, let's say, Heston Kjerstad now, Dominic Fletcher now, guys like that. You look back and you say, man, I enjoyed having it. And it's going to feel weird next season whenever you go to Baum and you look around and you say, who's that guy? And you don't see guys in the dugout that are Camden Kogel, Ryder Helfrich, and whoever else decides to go. Hunter Dietz now, but we didn't get to see as much Hunter Dietz as we'd like. But man, it was fun while he was here in that junior year. He got to finally be the ace of this staff. It was a blast seeing this class have their moments over time. You had last year, and then you had Hunter Dietz have him this year. It was fun to see these group of guys do what they did for as their time here as Razorbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with your sentiment, Curtis, of like, you just wish they had a little bit more to show for it. The 2025 season is, for most people, that would be like the greatest season of all time. Yeah. Something you tell your grandkids about, and I'm sure they will as well. But ultimately, this junior class, that was the #1 class back in the day, they leave their time at Arkansas with one trip to Omaha, which was a damn good trip to Omaha, not taking away from that team. But it's like, if I had told you they only get out of a regional once in their 3 years at Arkansas, that would have been a little bit disappointing. And so this is going to be a very easy I say easy. It's going to be a very big, like, transition for this team in this program this offseason. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they attack it. And I'm sure we'll get some type of word from Dave before this stream is over with. And so we're going to hop into the chat and talk to the fans about it. But before we do, I just want to make a one quick assumption, or I guess was not an assumption. What's the term I'm looking for? Assessment. That's what I'm looking for, Curtis. Thank you so much. We've been out in the sun baking. We're about cooked, dude. And I mean cooked in terms of our skin and just our brains. But ultimately, when you look at this roster, and I think a lot of people, there were some overreactions like, oh, this is the worst roster we've had since 2016. This team's not talented at all. And it's like, it's really not that, because there's a lot of guys that are going to get drafted, a lot of guys that are going to make a lot of money, a lot of guys that are going to go on to be great in their careers. This coaching staff took a gamble this offseason. I don't know if it was even a gamble as much as it was they trusted their development. You know, you think about the pitching staff and you think about guys like Cole Gibbler, who's a sophomore, and they expected him to take a huge jump. Someone like Colin Fisher, someone like Tate McGuire, someone like Gabe Gackle, obviously someone like Hunter Dietz, who did a very good job. Parker Coyle, you can go on down the line. Steele Eves, who did take a nice step forward. And it wasn't all bad. It wasn't like they botched every single development, but you just look at the pitching staff as a whole and you say, man, instead of going out and getting a few more transfer arms, you know, someone like an Ethan McIlvain, they really didn't develop their returners as much as you maybe thought. And I think you can kind of say the same about the lineup. And I know, you know, weirdly enough, Nolan Souza had, I think he drove in like 7 runs today or something between the 2 days. Reese Robinette, freaking legacy game against Northeastern. But you look at that group of returners, and even Helfrich is, you can kind of throw in here, you just didn't quite get as much production and development as you thought. And I think when you're piecing together your roster in the offseason with your portal, you kind of need to know what you have coming back. And I think if this coaching staff could go back in hindsight, they might realize that they overestimated what they had on the roster. And it wasn't horrible. It wasn't a bad roster. It was one of the, you know, probably 15 most talented rosters in the entire country, but it wasn't the standard. It wasn't what you want to see. And I look forward to seeing how this chat argues with me on that point. And so we're going to get into your chats. We're going to hop into it quick, because I imagine you guys are going to have a lot to say here. And we appreciate you guys for joining us. And a reminder that we are brought to you by Blue Ember Smokehouse, a family-owned smokehouse specializing in handcrafted barbecue. From tender brisket, home-cooked sides, you'll find a hearty meal for every member of the family, and they operate the Blue Ember way, buying only the highest quality meats, applying their signature blend of spices, and slowly smoking it in their wood-only pits. They allow the meats to rest to ensure optimal tenderness, and cut it in front of the customer to provide transparency and satisfaction in every bite. And Blue Ember also caters events, weddings, parties, business meetings, any gathering where a group of people need to be fed amazing barbecue. Blue Ember has you covered, and you can contact the individual stores for more info and specific pricing. Those stores will be West Little Rock, Hot Springs, Jonesboro, Fort Smith, Texarkana, and of course the Rogers location that has been so kind to Inside Arkansas and hosts us the first Wednesday of every month. Thank you for supporting your local Blue Ember Smokehouse. So, as we know, super chats do get read first. And we got a few of them. So shout out to you guys for, these feeling in a giving mood after watching your team in their season. Love that.
It's going to pay for that 20 count in a little bit. So,
well, I'm not eating another 20 piece. I said, by the way, I ate a 20 piece nugget last night, and I felt like that was going to give Arkansas a little bit of a boost, and it did for one game. Tried the iced honey bun, didn't work out. I'm not eating another 20 piece. If they had won, maybe I would have said, hey, that's just what I need to do. But now I feel like I'm off the hook. But Hayden says, Andrew, you've been awesome this year. Sorry, this a shit team in 2026. Well, yeah. I will say, shit is obviously a stretch. Yeah. But compared to, your usual Arkansas standard, I can see how you'd say shit. But if this is like the worst year that we're gonna have, I think I can probably sleep at night a little bit.
I mean, this is technically better than Kansas's last year that they had. That would have been their best year in 10 years. So,
yeah, truly.
Like, you understand that. Obviously, we all understand that our standards are just higher than everybody else. And that sounds condescending in a way, but it's true. Like, I mean, this is a good season for a lot of teams out there. It's just a little disappointing for us. Yeah.
That's some real BBN energy right there.
It really is. I will say, since Cameron took a shot at Kansas, I'm going to give Kansas some credit, because obviously they were the better team. I mean, they absolutely deserved it. They shut up that narrative that they got screwed on the draw, and you got the toughest regional possible. There were a lot of people, a lot of very respected people, and like metrics and all these numbers that said that Kansas may have had the toughest path of any regional host. And of course, they were number 15 out of the 16 regional hosts. And so it's like, and it's their first time ever hosting. They were ready, man. Not only was their team ready, because they brought it to Arkansas, their fans were ready, man. They had 3,500 in game one, over 4,000 yesterday, over 4,000 today. It wasn't like an SEC atmosphere by any stretch of the imagination, but it was awesome. That was a cool college baseball atmosphere.
It was a cool college baseball atmosphere, and you could tell that it really resonated, obviously with their coach, but with their players. Like I kept seeing the left fielder out there. His name escapes me.
Ballinger,
yeah. He was really reacting to those guys, and he was getting involved in the chants, and you could tell that they really showed up and showed out for their guys. So yes, credit to Kansas for that. It wound up being a really cool, unique atmosphere, kind of like we thought it would be. Would have really liked to shut those guys up, but it didn't work out.
I will also say one thing that I think highlighted it, because there's always this narrative that like Arkansas was about to like come here and like overtake Lawrence.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
No.
There were not that many Arkansas fans here this weekend. I don't know if that's just a schedule thing. I don't know if people just didn't know how close Lawrence was. Not that many Razorback fans, and no disrespect, because we love all Razorback fans. I didn't feel like Arkansas was well represented. I'll just leave it at that. I didn't think that we sent our best guys. I mean, they sent us, which are the best guys. I didn't think we sent our best section of the fan base. I'll just say that.
It's a fair assessment.
Hayden also says baseball portal opens tomorrow. Whoopee. Yeah. Poor Bobby Wernes. His phone's going to be getting blown up all night by me.
I'll be excited for the portal though.
I will be excited for the portal. Hey, they better have 4 commits by Tuesday, or else we're gonna be freaking out.
I'm ready to see if the staff will put their money where their mouth is after all the talk we've been hearing. So.
Exactly. I like that. Well, we got a big one, and it's so big from our guy Sharkensaw that I think I got to go with what I've determined is my go-to big super chat noise. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you like that? Appreciate you, Sharkensaw. He says, I was so thankful when Cole Ramage was done at Arkansas a few years ago, only to get an entire bullpen full of little versions of him. Thank you for all your hard work this year, Ellis. Hasn't really been fun, but absolutely appreciate the coverage. Have a safe trip home, fellas. You know what? I appreciate that, absolutely. That is interesting because, like, I feel like Cole Ramage was kind of the microcosm of, like, one, he was, like, the most average pitcher ever. So it's like anybody who felt, like, super strongly, it's like, talking about a guy with like a 4.2 ERA for his career, like every year. It's like he's just a stock righty. That's what he is. But he was a guy who would get thrown into big situations because they trusted him, and wasn't always great. Had his good games, has his bad, but every time he had a bad game, it was always, why is this guy in there? And I feel like that's kind of been the thing with Arkansas here lately this year. That's when you have a bad pitching staff, is when every time someone pitches, they're like, why is Gibbler in there in that situation? Why is Coyle in there in that situation? Why is whoever, James DeCramer, who, no disrespect, I mean, listen, we respect you, James DeCramer.
Yeah.
I hope you come back to Arkansas, and I hope that this fuels you all off season. I really do, because I think you got a chance to help us. I think you do.
Yeah.
It did not go well for him. He faced 6 hitters, did not get anybody out. And I think a lot of people are probably watching. Maybe they watched for the first time this week, and they're like, why the hell is James DeCramer in there? He earned the right to be there. You know what I mean? Like he had been nails for us, man. Like, and I feel like it was just a revolving door of right guy, wrong result.
Exactly.
And Cole Gibbler today was like the ultimate example of that, where it was like, hell, that was our number one option. And it just didn't work out, man. Appreciate Lane. He says, thanks for all you do, Andrew. I know it's been a frustrating season, but even through the rough times, you've still got the ride or die guys behind you. Now, on to the summer topics. Well, I do appreciate that, Lane. And I don't have to question your support, man. I always see you in here chilling. What you have some?
Finish your thought.
Nah, nothing. I was kind of mumbling anyway. I was mumbling my way through thanking Lane. It's all good. But seriously, Lane, I do appreciate that.
Well, we usually say this for like the end when we have these streams like this, but I think it's a perfect time to just say you did a hell of a job covering this team throughout the course of the year, Andrew. And I know a lot of people are really appreciative of your coverage, and I see that right there. And it's like, hey, you still got your ride or die guys behind you and everything. I thought what you did with like the Calling All Casual stream was awesome, because you're literally like hashtag grow the game right now. But we really need to, I'm not going to say hashtag grow Andrew, because that could be very misconstrued. But people got to start paying more attention to what my man Andrew Ellis has going on. All right. He did a hell of a job covering this team. Great asset to what we have going on at Inside Arkansas, whether it's on Inside Arkansas Live, hopping on with me for all the post games for basketball. You got a really good thing going on, a very bright future, young man. But I really did want to just take a minute to give you some props, man, because you really have absolutely crushed it with our baseball coverage. There's nobody out there that's covering Arkansas baseball the way that you do. It's great stuff. Cameron, shout out to you too, man, because here you just come out of nowhere and you get the interim tag removed before, Rodney Terry or something over at Texas. So, no, seriously, I appreciate you guys letting me hop on here and hang out with you now that we're in the postseason. Listen, I'm a front runner, man. I'm just hopping on the bandwagon while I can. But shout out to both of you guys. You did an awesome job the entire season.
Man, I appreciate that, Curtis. Yeah. I do, man. And Cameron, for real, like I feel like you. It's cool that we've now grown this a little bit to where we're kind of adding new layers to what we do. And I know obviously every year, Pod at the Palace, you try and do different things. You try and add to the coverage, try to just find different ways to cover these things. And I feel like Cameron is a kind of a living embodiment of that, like of our growth at Inside Arkansas. They were able to have, someone like Cameron on board. And he's just grinded, just been there. Availability is the best ability. The best ability. And Cameron just shows the F up every single day, never complained, never said no. And I really do appreciate that through all the ups and downs of the season, man. It was a blessing to have you around, for real.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I always.
Now you give Curtis a compliment.
Oh yeah.
Tell us how you feel.
I have my time.
Curtis could cover baseball all by himself if he really wanted to. He's great at everything he does.
I'm so glad y'all are here.
That's gonna be the next 30 minutes, y'all. We're not even gonna talk about Arkansas baseball. We're just gonna talk about how cool we are.
Yeah.
Love that. We'll seriously appreciate that, Lane, and appreciate YTA1. I like that. Our team takes on the mindset of our skipper, mental dwarfs. What was Davey Boy doing all offseason? Testing recipes for Karen's cookbook. Well, I will say this. They were he was doing that. He objectively did do that. That is a fact. He did do that.
Good chat.
It's a good chat. I got to be honest with you. It's a valid question. One, they were in the College World Series, which I'm not even saying that in a way to be like, oh, so you should excuse it. No, like it's just, you kind of see that every year that the teams, like, in 2022, Arkansas goes to Omaha. It was not a coincidence that the least talented roster they've had in the last decade, aside from this one, I guess you could argue, was 2023, where it was like they just got behind the 8-ball in the portal a little bit, didn't really work out. I mean, you really think about it, the best portal prospect that they got in both of those years, Jared Wagner, they got on the way to Omaha. Ethan McIlvain was their best portal get this year. They got him in Omaha. But I think that just, and so it's kind of weird that it worked out that way, but it does put you behind the 8-ball a little bit. And you saw LSU kind of had a similar, I mean, they had a much worse season than Arkansas. And again, I'm not saying that to like excuse it. It is just to answer your question, that definitely played a role. And like I said, I think he put too much trust in the roster he had coming back, in his core of returners. I think I think Dave looked at what Mississippi State did, flipping their whole roster. He looked at what Georgia did, flipping their whole roster, and was like, I don't know if I really want to do that. I do think Dave did have a little bit of an epiphany this year where it's like, maybe. And listen, Arkansas was playing the NIL portal game before. I do think he definitely underestimated how much work they had to do with the roster in the offseason.
I think it's also worth mentioning, if you look around the country right now, how many of the teams that were in Omaha last year are still playing right now?
Not UCLA.
just went out, and they're a little bit different because they returned a lot of that roster from last season, so they didn't have to really worry about replacing a ton of guys at that, like from that perspective. Who else would it be? Not Murray State.
Louisville, not in.
Yep.
Oregon State, I think they're about to be out, if not already out.
Yeah.
Coastal's about to be out as well.
Mm-hmm.
UCLA, Murray State, Arkansas, LSU. I mean, truly, the entire College World Series.
Exactly.
Like they literally all stunk this year. It's a good point. We're the best of the is Arkansas the best? I mean, I guess UCLA probably gets that distinction. But
well, I mean,
let's play an NIT. Arkansas, LSU, UCLA. Let's just get together and run it back.
Done.
Yeah,
we can get another shot at it. I like that. Woo Pig Nation 1 says, really hard to believe this pitching staff got hammered the way they did. What's it going to take to get going on the right direction next season? Money will certainly help. And getting a few of those arms. I do think from the pitching perspective, I mean, listen, there's pitchers on this roster that I'm very excited about their future. Cole Gibler, by the way, who's, had a rough day, had a rough sophomore year. Like, I don't think this year went the way he thought it was going to go. We thought it was going to go, all of that. I'm excited to see what Cole Gibler looks like in year 3. I'm excited to see what both of those arms, Peyton Lee and Mark Brissy, I thought looked fantastic today, honestly. Brissy pulled off the first ever off the brick wall pickoff attempt. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. So Mark Brissy in his first postseason game, inventing new tactics. But on a serious note, like, there's talent on this roster in terms of a pitching staff. There is not an ace on this roster. Like, you do not have a guy that last year you have Gabe Gackle coming back that we all looked at and said, that's your ace. We turned out to be wrong, but you had your ace on your roster, and Hunter Dietz, another guy. Both of those guys were brought in known to be future aces. And barring Carson Wiggins spurning the draft, and even then, a guy who has 12 career innings, I don't think Arkansas has a bona fide weekend starting arm on the roster right now. That's got to be mission number one in the portal.
Sure.
And then, of course, you're probably going to end up flipping the whole outfield again. You're probably going to end up having to, get a few athletic infielders, some guys that can slug it a little bit. They got a lot of work to do in the portal, but I would remind you, Woo Pig Nation, this staff just 2 years ago, was in this exact same situation, losing a regional, bummed, and they went to work and brought together a damn good roster, damn good portal class, and now they might have some more money to do some with. So we'll see if they're able to make it work. Arkansas says, if possible, we have to keep Ruiz. Dude was the most underrated player on the team, in my opinion. I think Ruiz is very solid. Yeah, John Neighbor's favorite player.
This is true.
Yeah,
it's John's guy.
Damian Ruiz is a stud, man, and he's a redshirt junior. Will probably get drafted, but I got to say, I don't think he's going to be like a super sought after, expensive guy where it's going to cost like $500,000 to sign him or anything like that. I think you're probably looking at like a 10th, 12th round guy. And, we talked about things that Arkansas can do to kind of get going in the right direction. That would be something I would want to invest my newfound capital in. Kahio Aloy, likely in that like 8 to 12 round draft range where the signing bonuses are like 100 to 300,000. I would like to drop one of those bags and say, hey, Kahio, just come back to school and let's play ball. We might pass the 5-5 rule. You might have leverage next year anyway. Screw it. Let's do it. Damian Ruiz, you ain't gonna have no leverage because this is your 5th year anyway, but just come play baseball at Arkansas, man. Like you didn't get the most out of this experience that you wanted. You wanted to play a regional at home. Come back at Arkansas, man. I think that could be huge. Maybe someone like Nolan Souza. I personally, don't shoot me, guys. I think they should just go ahead and bring Reese Robinette back. Maybe if you try and recruit over him, you want someone else to play first base, cool. But I wouldn't hate having that leadership presence around there. And I think you could do some of that with the pitching staff as well. Just kind of get some of those core guys back. I think that's something that I would definitely look toward a little bit.
Have a day, Reese. Have a weekend, Reese. I'm all for it. I'm all in at this point. Man, oh man.
Zach Stewart and Reese Robinette were the best hitters on the team for about 2 games there.
Yeah. How
Kinda
about
wild.
that, man? I think I saw Matt Jones tweet out that Reese Robinette has hit 9 career home runs. 4 of them have been in the NCAA tournament. 3 of them were this weekend.
Wow.
Just unbelievable. He's also got 2 multi-home run games. For a guy that has 9 career home runs, 2 multi-home run games.
When he's seeing it, he's seeing it.
Unbelievable stuff, man. Our boy Addison Yates, we appreciate you, man. One of our funniest chatters. I'll give him that. Sometimes a little too funny.
It's not even
By
low key
far.
anymore.
Sometimes a little too funny, if I'm being honest with you. But he says, thank you for your coverage this season. Y'all have helped me, a casual, learn the game and have grown my love for Arkansas baseball the past 2 years. I appreciate that. Those are like my favorite kinds of, I always appreciate anybody who's like, oh, I love the show and all that. And appreciate everybody in Lawrence. There was a few Hog fans in Lawrence that were like, hey, love Bombastic, love that. I always appreciate that. But I love the people that are like, hey, I'm kind of just on the fence, and now I actually kind of love baseball. Like now you've made me a bigger fan. Like that is like, that's literally the entire goal of what I'm trying to do. It's my entire life purpose. So.
Yeah, I got to meet Addison Yates right before a basketball game. Great guy. Really appreciate sitting behind the scenes on the computer here, seeing his chats rolling. It's one of my favorite parts of the show. So I appreciate him.
Bo wants to know, would you have considered throwing the freshman guys in game 1, knowing you were going to have to likely use them no matter what, and save your dudes for Kansas? So I'll just be completely honest with you here. In hindsight, seeing how they threw, yes, I would have. If you're going to throw Tate for 4 or 5 innings, yeah, maybe Mark Brissy for 2 if he's going to look like that. I think that Mark Brissy probably could have gone 2 or 3 against Northeastern. I think that version of Peyton Lee looked like the Peyton Lee we saw against Tarleton. He might have been able to give you 6 outs there. Plus, Arkansas wound up scoring 10 runs. They probably were going to make it work no matter what. And they, hell, even if they had tied it up, they probably would have had a chance. Yes, but in the moment, I definitely wasn't thinking that. I kind of, one, respect the Northeastern. That's a good squad. Like I know they're a 4 seed that you're like, oh yeah, we should beat them no matter what. They were fighting. They were scrappy, and so I don't think there's any guarantee those freshmen, and they threw well in a low leverage situation. That it would have gone as well. But I really genuinely loved watching Lee and Brissy get out there and just compete.
That's fun.
And you got to see a little bit of like the competitiveness come out of them. Peyton Lee dropping a little LFG as he's coming off the mound. Like it's just cool to see that. That's going to be huge for them going into the offseason of like, I got a little bit of a taste of what this is like. Now next year, I'm going to go out to the Cape and do what I got to do. next year I'm ready for it. And that's what we saw happen with Steel Eves. Steel Eves was pitching in situations like that. Now we see him today in the fire, and he's ready for it. I think those guys can do something similar.
Was Lee the one that Dave went to on like a 1-1 count, like the middle of an at bat?
Yeah, it was a foul ball that big. It was like 1-0, and he gets a foul ball, and Dave was just like, "No, I'm done. I'm done, bro." Dave was cracking me up. I got to be honest. Dave, do we agree? Dave did not like this Arkansas baseball team. Is that a fair assessment? Just based on
it was not his favorite. That is a fact.
Compared to last year's teams, which I think he absolutely adored that team. Yeah.
And there's guys, he loves all these guys. All his players matter to him. Dave loves the kids. It's all that. And there's guys, Camden Kojo, I think, is one of the, joys of his coaching career. Like, I really do. Ryder Helfrich, he has loved that guy since he was a freshman. There's guys on this team that he loved. I'm sure he even appreciates some of the guys that stunk for him, but I don't think that they got the warm, fuzzy feeling about the team coming together and the bonds and the everything working together. And I don't think it's a coincidence that halfway through the year, he's like, we're up in the bag on NIL this year, man. We ain't doing this shit again. That was crazy.
And I think with Camden Kozel just getting engaged, I would put a very high amount of money that Dave Van Horn will attend that wedding.
Oh, yeah. He was saying that the other day. He's like, I attend a lot of weddings. It's always good. Shout out to Brett Bielema for attending Russell Wilson's wedding to Sierra in Paris. I remember that.
How about that?
I was fired up in the moment. Hickory Hawk says, going to miss Cam Dietz, Helfrich, Gackle. Sick to my stomach for those guys. Yeah, I think that's completely fair, man. And, I think that's the most disappointing side of this season ending the way it did is just like, you didn't get those guys back to – because when we were in Omaha last year, we all felt like, man, but I can't wait to see these guys get back here. Kozel, who's from Omaha, he's going to be, playing with a little bit of an edge. Like, you just felt like there was more to the story, and I really do hate to see it end in freaking Lawrence, Kansas, man.
Of all places.
It's absolutely brutal.
Lawrence got us. We're not sunning the Jayhawks anymore.
No, very much.
That narrative is dead now. That's
emancipation.
Yeah.
We beat them in their best sport, and they beat us in ours.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
Hey, that is crazy, isn't
brutal.
it? Yep. By the way, I got to be honest. I kind of love Kansas fans, for the most part. Maybe not all of them, but
good amount.
Most of the ones because we were just eavesdropping. We're just listening to conversations, and you hear people talking. They're like, dude, have y'all seen Arkansas Stadium? It's crazy, bro.
Yeah,
it's unreal, man. They and there was a lot of respect for Arkansas and their baseball program. Absolutely.
I noticed a lot when Dietz was on the bump last night. A lot of holy, this dude is, they knew it was up there for sure.
Absolutely.
We also weren't sitting in the section where we were getting beers thrown on our heads.
That's also
fair.
True.
That's fair.
A lot of the real ones, not the ones that you just see on social media or maybe in the student section a little bit. The real Kansas fans were pretty good people. So,
Ryan, our guy, says baseball is still a niche sport. If you love the Hog and love baseball, please continue to support the Bombastic Podcast. I appreciate that, Ryan. I really do. And amid all our struggles, man, we're like Batman and the Joker. We're destined to do this dance. I throw you in Arkham Asylum, you break out, and it's just what we do. It's just how we do it. But I do appreciate you at the end of the day, and I appreciate your love for the sport. That's really the one thing I appreciate, but I do appreciate that.
Ryan, did you make it through the whole game? I saw you tweet about 10 times that you had watched your last pitch of Arkansas baseball. So I'm just curious if you made it all the way through, buddy.
Yeah, I like that. And then we got our guy Hayden Ulmer, who says Summer Topics is the perfect show name to give us a 6-pack replacement.
People want the 6-pack, man.
Hayden, I'm going to cut this part out of the stream, and we are going to take this, and we are not going to share any of the income with you. I kid, but no, I do think that's we might have to do something like that, especially this summer. Because Curtis, you got to think about that. McGregor's fighting this summer.
Yeah,
there's a White House card.
Yep.
That's really all I can think of off the top of my head. But just things the Cardinals are good. There's things that we can talk about.
There's a lot going on this planet right now.
A lot going on the planet. I mean, there's the
war. We got time, buddy.
There's the wars going on. There's a lot to talk about.
Talking season has started early.
Absolutely. Yeah. A little too early for my liking. Washburn Idol, appreciate you, my guy. Says, thanks for all the covers this year. It's been a weird but fun ride, and you help keep every week entertaining. Feels like Dave's going to have a bounce back roster next year, and hopefully it's a nasty one. For as much as people do say the thing about just every year, same old thing with Arkansas. They just lose in the postseason every year. One, obviously there's varying, losing in the semifinals of Omaha is a little bit different than losing in the, first game of a regional final in freaking Lawrence, Kansas. But also if you look at the last, decade or so of Arkansas baseball, Dave's biggest statements have been after his biggest disappointments. 2016 was a year I'll never forget watching, and this is when I was just a fan, watching they made Dave do an end of season press conference like June 5th, where like the super regional's going on and Dave's doing his thing because his season's been over for 2 weeks. And he was like pissed in the press conference weeks after the season ended. You could tell it wasn't sitting right with him. He didn't like it. It was the first time he had made the tournament. And it definitely forced him to reevaluate. And that's when, he made a change in the pitching coach. He didn't fire Dave Jorn, but he brought in Wes Johnson. And, I feel like that staff with him, Tony Vitello and Wes Johnson set the stage in that 2017 season for the program and where it's at today. And a huge disappointment in 2024 when Hagen Smith's year ends in the regional. And there was a lot, back-to-back years losing in a regional. There was a lot of pressure. They went out and made it happen. And so I'm not saying, hey, this year now they're about to just put together the best roster they've ever done. But, I do think the motivation is going to be at an all-time high. And these conversations that we have every day are certainly not lost on Dave and his staff in terms of things they need to address and things that they're going to have to be working on this summer. And they've got a lot of time to do it.
Yeah, let me just say, I have very high expectations for the way that they've been talking about this, for them to be very active in the best of the best this offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to actually get a hear because we got some clips from Dave Van Horn, and I do want to hear what he has to say, and then we're going to get into the rest of your chat. So don't think we're abandoning you. We're not. But we do want to, the big thing we want to see, guys, we want to see some fight out of these guys. And then, where you can always find fight is Fight House Gym, Arkansas's #1 boxing, MMA, and strength training gym built for athletes, competitors, and anyone ready to push their limits, from higher energy boxing and MMA training to free weights, elite cardio equipment, sleds, and cross training. Fight House Gym delivers everything you need to train at the highest level, and you got to get in now on their summer savings sale. Summer just got stronger. Right now, you can get 20% off every martial arts and fitness membership at Fight House Gym. And this offer ends July 5th, so you got to get in on it now. Train hard, save bigger. Whether you're a seasoned fighter or just someone starting your fitness journey, this is the gym that meets you exactly where you are and pushes you further. It's not just a gym, it's a mindset. You can call 951-623-9745 and step inside and bring the fight, or you can visit fighthousegym.com or just go check them out in person off exit 58, 10131 Webb Way in Fayetteville. So we got some clips. Appreciate producer John for putting these clips together for us. We'll just do the basic opening statement from Dave, about 2 minutes here. We'll hear what he had to say.
First off, congratulations to Kansas, man. They have a solid team. They don't make very many mistakes. Played really good defense against us and threw a lot of strikes, a lot of different type of arm slots, different things coming at us, and they got some big hits. Took advantage of 3 or 4 mistakes we made today. Didn't turn double play ball, and had a couple outfielders run into each other, and I could go on and on. But I was proud of our team. We scored 20 runs on the day, and the first game we probably shouldn't have been as close as it was, but we held out. McIlvain not to close the game because we needed him to start. We were trying to win and win the tournament, not just win one game. We were trying to win the second game today, and he didn't lose his stuff, but he lost his control, and that's why we got him. And but yeah, it was just it was a long day. We fought hard, man. I was super proud of our players for getting after it. The message this morning was we got to score, we got to hit, and if you'd have told me we're going to score 10 in each game, I'd have told you we're probably going to win both of them. But the defense let us down a little bit today, and I got to throw a couple freshmen that went out there and let it rip a little bit. Kind of gets me excited about next year a little bit. So, but I told the team, I said a month and a half ago we were struggling. We didn't know which way we were going to go. And we challenged them. We started working different ways, and they responded. We won a lot of games the last 45 days, and we came a long way from where we were in fall baseball. I'll tell you that.
Interesting. I do remember in the Swatters Club I guess it was after going into the Auburn series. or maybe after the Auburn series. And he said something along the lines of like, yeah, we kind of knew in the fall this was going to be a little bit of a work in progress. And I remember saying in like that day's bombastic, I was like, I actually don't love that because I don't believe that. You know, like I think in the fall you probably thought you had a pretty good squad, but you know, who knows? We talked about the roster and how he definitely overestimated what he had returning, and so maybe that's what he's alluding to. But now it's the second time that he's kind of hinted at that of like, I kind of realized in the fall that I effed up a little bit. And I don't necessarily like blame him, but that does kind of suck to hear because it's like, damn, you know, we could have, if you just told us back then, we could have maybe known and not gotten our hopes up, but whatever. Yeah. Dave also, I mean, did you guys have anything to respond to his opening statement, by the way?
I was just going to point out, I love the, you know, like the re-recruiting aspect of that right there. He's like, oh yeah, I got to throw a couple freshmen out there. That gives me a reason to be excited for next year. Like if I'm Peyton Lee or Mark Brissy, I'm like, oh wow, okay. Yeah, keep those dudes out of the portal. The what is it that Trilly says? Sometimes the best gets are the one that you already have. Yeah. So maybe that's a little bit of a recruiting ploy right there. I like that.
Yeah. By the way, there's a chat here I just saw from Josh Smith says, why does it seem that each year we make it to Omaha, we take a step back the following year? We never build on it. Yeah. 2019 being the one exception where they did, you know, I felt like they got back to Omaha. It's definitely a real thing. And we alluded to that earlier that like people underrate. I mean, the portal opens tomorrow. If Arkansas were to have made it to Omaha this year, they would be playing until about June 1st, 22nd, 23rd, or whatever it is. That's a lot of time, you know, and you recruit. And I mean, like, I remember last year being in Omaha and seeing Bobby Wernes on the phone with people. They definitely wheel and deal a little bit while you're playing, and it helps to be like, hey, we're in Omaha. You want to be a part of this? But it also puts you behind the 8 ball. And now Arkansas is going to be on the other end of that. And weirdly enough, it seems like Dave spoke about that in the press conference here.
Well, I know for our team, you know, you can't say a whole lot, but you got to get some help. And you got to be able to get those kids. So we needed help. We didn't get the help we needed right away. And they ended up other places. So I'm sure that's the same thing that happened to some other schools. When you're in Omaha, teams are getting a jump on you. They're getting kids in immediately. Kids they're taking it, and they're in there. That's where they go. And you know, when you play a couple weeks in on that thing, it's late June, and a lot of the good ones are gone. But you know, it is what it is. You know, I don't really want to go there too much.
Gosh, man, somebody get him in the room with our basketball coach. You get the money, spend the money, my man. Let's go.
They went other places. Yep. They went other places.
Dang.
So
we didn't get the help we needed.
He basically he just confirmed that basically LSU, Arkansas, and Tennessee are going to deal this summer.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute arms race between those three programs. The bags are going to be flying left and right, and honestly, I love to see it. I love to see it. Well, we figured that he would kind of give you a little bit. We were talking about this earlier today. Because John was going to the press conference. And he's like, what should we talk about? What's going on? I was like, I'm hoping he at least drops a little bit of a expect something cool. And so I don't know if he said it in this clip, but I'm going to play this 54-second clip called DBH on Portal. Please be cool.
Yeah, we'll be in the portal pretty good, and it's not what I love doing. You know, that's not the way I like developing kids. I like to get freshmen and keep them coming along. But if you want to compete in the Southeastern Conference, full-grown man league, and it's hard to win with three freshmen in the lineup and a couple of freshman pitchers that you depend on every weekend. It's just not going to happen. You got to get guys that have some experience, and so we'll be in the middle of it. It starts tomorrow. We all know it. We're ready for it, and but our goal still is to get really good high school kids.
Hey, Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Their shortstop.
I once again request that he gets in a room with John Calipari. This is music to my ears, man. I love it. I love it.
Well, I appreciate it because, Dave is one of those guys that he doesn't really like mince words much. Like he's kind of going to tell you, but he also isn't going to go into crazy detail. Right. It's like, he's like, I'll give you my like big picture, like summary, but I'm not going to tell you how we're going to do it. I'm not going to tell you exactly what we're going to do. He's not going to make any guarantees because he's done that before where I remember in 2022, he was like, this team's going to hit. And then they were like 11th in the SEC in average. I'm like, what the hell? And then they end up hitting in the Stillwater or whatever. He's gotten himself in trouble by making guarantees. He's not like, oh, we're going to have the best roster in the country. He's just like, we're gonna get in that portal. We're gonna get in it pretty good. I like that. Cameron, do you said you're buying it? Like you feel like this is gonna be a good portal class for Arkansas? You feeling that?
I do feel it personally, to be honest. I mean, I just don't think he shoots stuff out like that unless he's got something up his sleeve a little bit. Yeah. So it would
be pretty wild to say that and be like, oh yeah, we're getting in here. The Omaha thing screwed us last year, but we're not in Omaha. We got money. Let's make this thing. And then it just turns out you just get a couple like colonial third basemen that hit 270 with 4 home runs. And you're like, damn. Like that would be a little tough.
A little bit, yeah.
We're going to get back into the chats here real quick. Washburn Idol said, Missed Aloy and Mika wasn't lying about postseason play. Is that a Micah?
I think it's
that's
Micah.
Micah. Yeah. Well, how about Micah New having played 4 games and had 4 hits in 2 of those games. Pretty unbelievable stuff.
Good stuff.
Was kind of, I mean, I hate to say it. It sucks that it was on the way out, but it was cool to see that version of Micah where you're like, oh yeah, that's the guy that like, we thought would, like you said earlier, he would replace Justin Thomas Jr.'s production and maybe even level it up a little bit. So it's not like this was a completely flawed roster that just sucked top to bottom. You just didn't get the most out of it, and that's the frustrating part. Hickory Hog says, we got to get Robinette whatever supplements that girl from UCLA that hit 40 home runs was taking. I think he took them. I don't know. He looked pretty good. Had a little opposite field hit too as well.
He had him sent directly to Lawrence,
Reese Robinette, there were a lot of F-bombs. I mean, honestly, there were a lot of F-bombs dropped from Arkansas players in this game, and I don't care. I just mean, in fact, I love it. I noticed Kojal, when he missed that changeup from Ritter, dropped a little F-bomb. His final at-bat as a Razorback, by the way, was barreling up a baseball right to the first baseman. Reese Robinette dropped a little F-bomb as he struck out for the final time this year. Sad stuff. I don't have anything else to say to that. I just wanted to point it out.
It's a little bit sad.
Speaking of Reese, Chris Bennett says, Reese is an underrated first baseman. Bring him back. Yeah, I mean, listen, guys, I've seen a lot of people being like, you can't bring him back. And I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, I can see, again, if you say, hey, I would rather see someone else start at first base. What do you mean you can't bring him back? I mean, he's been on the roster for 4 years. He was an everyday starter on the best lineup we've ever had. I'm not even saying he needs to start next year, but I think you can bring him in and, I think that's he's a very good, like, litmus test for, it's like, if you bring in a transfer portal first baseman, and you're expecting him to be a dude, prove you're better than Reese Robinette,
Exactly.
just play better than Reese Robinette. And then that'll be like, at least something. I think you can have him around.
This reminds me of like the KJ Jackson situation when Silverfield came in, where it was like you could spend a bunch of money and just go get an absolute star at that spot, or you can bring in some competition and see if that breeds excellence. You know what I mean? That's kind of exactly what they did right there. And then maybe it's what to do with Reese. So.
Hopefully they bring in a better version than AJ Hill. Yeah. No disrespect. I mean, we're not going to
It doesn't feel.
Then you go out, you can go buy your ace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Poor AJ.
Like, Reese Robinette is more like Bradley Shaw.
There we go.
It's like, you can bring Bradley Shaw back. You just got to go get some other linebackers as well.
It doesn't feel like after Dave literally just said he likes keeping the high school guys and develop them, and then he would let Reese did it the right way, Robinette go.
Man.
So,
final super chat we got to pull up is from Chop Suey saying, "Fire Dave Van Choke. We'll appreciate that $2. That will get our large fry tonight. We appreciate that." Zach, member for 1 month, says, year 2 of following baseball. I don't understand why we didn't keep Handlebar Man to close. Ryan tried to explain, ready for basketball season. I like that. So, okay, we'll we don't have to do 10 minutes on Ethan McIlvain necessarily, but, when we found out he was starting, I don't think either of us, were like super fired up, but like you understood the decision at least, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure.
I mean, listen, you just don't want to go down. I mean, because like last night's game, I thought there was a chance they might have brought Ethan McIlvain in. I felt like it would have had to have been later, like maybe 8th or 9th inning. I mean, he did throw on Friday, and I don't know if he's thrown back-to-back days much at all this year. You knew it was going to be. I think the starting Ethan McIlvain was very much as simple as like let's just start off strong, see if we can get in front and maybe make this thing a little bit easier, which did happen.
Yep.
But then you get to a point where it's 5-0 and you're trying to squeeze a little bit out of that lemon. And so it's like starting McIlvain, I didn't think that was the wrong decision. Going to Cole Gibbler, I don't think that was the wrong decision. It just didn't work. And it didn't work in such a bad way where you immediately lose the lead in one inning. Just the way it played out was brutal. But honestly, like, I don't think they really had many options. I mean, the alternative would have been like starting Colin Fisher, which we saw how his outing went. I don't know if it necessarily was about to be awesome there necessarily.
Yeah.
We got Ellie says painful, hate it for them. We're all rooting for Little Rock to win it all now, right? I don't know about how do you guys realize? Because I was gonna say, listen, I love Chris Curry, love Little Rock, and I'm glad that Little Rock is good, like dead serious. It looks like they're gonna go to a super regional. I think they would have to lose twice to Jacksonville State, I believe, right? Is that where they're at?
I believe so, yeah.
And so they're probably gonna make a super regional, which is awesome. And like that's a huge deal. I mean, that was last year being in the Baton Rouge regional and really pushing LSU to the brink, pushing LSU more than Arkansas did. That was a huge moment for Little Rock, and for them to build on that and then have get to a super regional this year. That's really cool, and I'm happy for those guys. Them getting them winning it all would be pretty brutal.
It would be very brutal. It would have been.
It would
nice
also break my brain where I'd be like, "What?"
It would have been really nice if they were to make their first super regional last season.
Yeah.
Yep.
That would. I mean, yeah. Had they done that, it would have been very, very convenient. We did get another super chat from Shop Suey. He says, "Here's you another small fry."
Thanks.
Actually, now we might be able to afford a large fry.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
I bet you won't send another one. You coward. And then, by the way, Vince Remy says, are we all rooting for Georgia Tech to win it all this year? Would make me sick to see Georgia, another SEC team, to win it. I think I agree with this assumption. I mean, it's definitely not going to be UCLA. I think Georgia Tech's the best team in the country. I've kind of felt that way for a while now. That was the team that, even if Arkansas did get through here, we were not looking forward to facing. And I'll be honest with you. Well, I would be a little bit bummed out if Kansas won it all. I'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But I would like to see Kansas. If they made it to Omaha, I think that'd be pretty cool. But then that would almost guarantee that an SEC team like Georgia winds up winning. Yeah. Could be a tough one. Couple more here, and then I swear we're going to get out of here. One here from Logan I thought was pretty funny. He says, series of unfortunate events. Brenton Clark injury. Yes, that was a bummer. Looking forward to Brenton Clark being here next year. Yeah. Souza, late return from surgery. Yeah, I felt like he didn't really get going until a little bit later. Gibbler, lack of a third pitch. Aloy, unfortunate events. Brumball, all SEC practice freshman. Facts. Wiggins' mama. Shit happens. And I got to be honest with you. I agree with every single sentence, every single word of this statement. Like, these are things that I didn't want them to happen, but they happened, and they're not like necessarily anyone's fault. You know what I mean? They just kind of happened. I guess Cole Gibbler's third pitch you could blame on Matt Hobbs and the development or whatever. But yeah, it's just kind of all added up, and I think that is ultimately kind of like the story of the season. It's not a bad team, not a bad roster, but they're just like one fielding play away, one good AB away, one pitch away. Christian Turner gets second and third, gets a fastball directly down the middle. He misses it. Bummer. Then he comes up later and it's a 3-2 count and he chases one out of the zone. And it's like, you're just like almost there. You're almost really good, but you're just kind of one piece short in a bunch of different ways. And it was kind of a revolving door of Arkansas being like one play or two away for a lot of the season. And it just made it one of the most frustrating seasons of all time. And again, I know how it's easy to see that and see like, so that must mean that like Dave sucks and maybe Nate Thompson sucks and maybe Matt Hobbs sucks. And, we can kind of have those conversations, but I really do think it's just, like he said, a series of unfortunate events. And we'll see if it kind of kicks this program into gear going into next year. Final chat I wanted to read from a Kansas fan who says, Kansas fan here, your team has a lot of heart and we're never truly out of it. Battle to the end. They were the real deal. So one, is this a little bit of like little bro? Like they're trying to little bro us a little bit, like
well deserved.
Hey, good effort, Chief. I in all seriousness, we do appreciate that. Yeah, they played hard because of us. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, and I want to give Kansas their credit. I really don't want to make this a sour grapes thing where I'm like, oh, Arkansas choked and Kansas didn't do anything to earn it. They were ready for postseason ball, man. You got to play your best ball at the right time. Kansas, who won the Big 12 tournament, played well down the stretch, beat Arkansas here today twice. I mean, Arkansas really didn't even really put up. I mean, they showed fight, but they really didn't even make them sweat all that much.
Yeah. And they beat Dietz. They beat us on Dietz Day. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard to accidentally do that.
They beat Dietz and they beat McIlvain.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess Gibbler wound up really getting the loss, but it's like, yeah, we threw our best stuff at them, and for the most part, our best stuff did good against them, but they were still able to kind of wear them down by the end of it. And by the end of it, at 120 pitches, you were able to get some runs that wound up winning you the game against Dietz. You were able to get that rally started against McIlvain. I tip my hat to you, man. There are a lot of SEC teams that didn't do that. So credit to Kansas for sure, man. I see it's the final super chat here from Watchford Idol, who says, did you see Georgia's guy getting tossed after emote spamming, rounding the bases after a homer? What is it with teams that become good overnight being absolute tools? Yeah, how about him? Was it Trey Phelps that did
Trey Phelps.
He did the
Yeah.
big balls celebration. I didn't know that was ejection worthy. I really didn't. I mean,
it's kind of crazy.
I think because he did it
disrespectful.
directly into
Was it
Liberty's
towards that dugout
or whatever. Yeah, but
yeah. He wasn't doing it towards his own dugout.
he did something to Liberty's dugout. That
fair enough.
I guess the reason he got ejected was because whatever gesture he made towards them. I don't know if it was the big balls thing, but something.
Yeah, no, that's a tough one. Well, boys, we recapped the game, I guess, and we've done our best to put a bow on this season. I think we've said it all here, and we're going to continue. Again, we're going to continue. It's not like we're going away. The Bombastic Podcast is still going to exist. We're still going to be talking baseball for as long as you guys want to, and all throughout the summer and all that. But do you have any, I guess, final thoughts as we put this season and our time here in Lawrence to bed here?
Yeah, and it's always a bummer when a season ends. I'm not as down and out and distraught as I usually am. And I agree with Dave Van Horn. I feel like this team got better later in the season. I thought they were playing some pretty good ball coming into the regional, but I don't know that we ever really had the opportunity to look at this team and think they were going to be the one that really did something crazy. It turns out that wound up being the case, and that's unfortunate. I'm feeling some optimism and a sense of excitement hearing what he had to say about how they're going to attack this thing in the offseason and reload this roster. It's not a rebuild here at Arkansas. So I'm excited to see what they have going on. Awesome season, awesome coverage. Really, really have enjoyed this trip and hanging out with you guys in Lawrence. It's been an absolute blast and can't wait to do it all over again.
Honestly, personally, I think this might be usually the worst day of the year for me, because it feels like, hey, the athletics year is over. Now you've got 3-month drought before you can really talk about it. But it's never really over in college athletics. There's the off season. There's going to be all the transfers coming in. So that does get you a little bit excited. And I am curious to see exactly how they do in the transfer portal. And it's always fun just to talk ball. And then once they get practices going and everything, but I'm excited for the future here.
Yeah. I think I enjoyed this team more than I probably should have, and I think we understood their shortcomings, but man, we had a lot of fun days. There were a lot of fun times at Bomb, some walk-off home runs with Christian Turner, TJ Pompey, and guys that just kind of came through at random moments when you didn't really expect it. But like you said, Curtis, I don't know if we ever, I thought this team could be good. I thought this team could be better than they wound up being. I don't know if this was ever going to be the team that won the College World Series. The hope was just, could you get hot at the end of the year and make a run? And they didn't really even do that. But in all seriousness, I do appreciate you guys for tuning in all year, being here for this Bombastic Postgame and for us all weekend here at Lawrence. We had a great time with some great hospitality in the city of Lawrence. And again, I wouldn't want to do anything else, man. I appreciate you guys being here and loving Arkansas baseball, because it allows someone like me to get to do what I want to do. And we're going to keep this thing rolling, man. We're going to continue to talk about, hopefully, portal opening tomorrow, an awesome roster that you guys are going to fall in love with. And I sincerely do say this. I hope that Arkansas builds a team that you guys can really get behind and be proud of and be excited for. Because, whether it was fair or unfair or maybe over the top at times, the fan base never truly fell in love with this team, never really got behind them. And I don't think that's the fans' fault. I think it just kind of is the way it played out. I think we could tell this wasn't going to be, a title team, and that makes us angry. But in all seriousness, appreciate you guys for everything. We're going to get out of here and hopefully get back to Fayetteville very soon. It's been another brilliant award-winning edition of the Bombastic Postgame. We will see you guys tomorrow.